Mr. Joe.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have a quick question on the partnership. Do you have any plan to expand your partnership with the AAA? Because I know they will be able to get something done with the AAA office. Do you have a plan to?
So we currently, auto clubs, Northern and Southern California, they are currently our business partners, and so they do a lot of transactions for us. Is that the question?
The question is, are you in any effort to strengthen or have the partnership so they'll be able to do more than just what they're doing right now?
We have discussions both with the Northern Southern California Auto Club, and they come and visit with me once a year, and they usually come in the springtime. And so we definitely look at additional transactions that they can take on for us in terms of offering quality service for our customers. So definitely that dialogue is always ongoing.
So thank you very much. I have to commend you also. I've been, as I shared with you earlier, I have been in line early in the morning, and the DMV staff came out with clipboards so that we all could be prepared when we walked in half an hour before even the opening time. So they are very proactive, and congratulations on the rollout of AB 60. I know it was a tremendous task, but if there's anything the legislature can do in helping you make it even easier, or if you run into problems, we want you to let us know, because that's such a worthy opportunity. But also, I look forward to our rollout of on Veterans Day, the Veterans designation on the California driver's license. I do appreciate the DMV's help moving that forward also. So thank you so much for everything you do, and again, look forward to keeping in touch, and appreciate what you do.
Thank you.
Next, excuse me, next we'll have Mary Nichols from the California Air Resource Board, and she is accompanied by the Legislative Director, Jennifer Gress. Chairman Nichols. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. And thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here today. The mission of the Air Resources Board is to cut air pollution and to protect the public health of Californians. We've been at this task for nearly half a century, and we've made great strides. For example, cars today that are sold in California are 99% cleaner than they were in the 1970s, and California's clean fuel standards have cut cancer risks by 40%. And we're on track to achieve California's 2020 greenhouse gas reduction target under AB 32. In achieving these goals, California has shown the world that it's possible to cut emissions and grow our economy at the same time. But we still have a long way to go. Many of our communities, especially those near ports, distribution centers, freeways, and industrial operations, still suffer from unhealthy air. The South Coast and the San Joaquin Valley are among the nation's most challenging areas for ozone and will require continuing and lasting emissions reductions. The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency has also recently proposed even further tightening the federal ozone standard. We must also continue reducing emissions in line with the scientifically based levels between now and mid-century to avoid the worst impacts of climate change. The transportation sector is where the issues of climate change and air quality converge. Transportation is the largest source of both air pollution and greenhouse gas emissions in California. And the same clean vehicle and fuel technologies can be used to address both of these challenges. This enables us to take an integrated approach to cleaning up our transportation sector. As Governor Brown noted in his State of the State address, cutting petroleum use 50% by 2030 is a key element of California's plan for fighting climate change. Reducing our reliance on petroleum will also be key to meeting the federal ozone standards. To achieve these targets, we're going to need to continue to accelerate our market for cleaner vehicles, fuels, and other advanced technologies, and ensure our transportation system allows for the clean and efficient movement of both people and goods. I want to briefly highlight some of our accomplishments and the work that's ongoing in each of these three areas. First of all, with respect to vehicles, over the past few years, California has tightened emission standards for new cars and implemented requirements to clean up existing diesel vehicles and equipment. We're well into the implementation of the truck and bus rule, which will ensure that nearly all heavy-duty diesel trucks and buses will have a 2010 engine by 2023. That sounds like a long lag time, but these are fleets that turn over slowly. And this will deliver major air quality and public health benefits. We will continue working with fleets to assist them in complying with the regulation, and we're working to develop mechanisms to better ensure that heavy-duty vehicles perform in use at the emissions levels that the engines were originally certified to. We're in the process of finalizing a technology assessment that, among other things, is showing that heavy-duty diesel vehicles are not always achieving the expected emissions reductions when they're actually in use. Today, cars and light-duty trucks on the roads are cleaner and more efficient than ever in history. In addition to improving air quality, this means significant savings in oil use, greenhouse gas emissions, and avoided fuel costs for consumers. We're also on track to meet the state's goal of 1.5 million zero-emission vehicles by 2025, and we are investing ourselves through the Air Resources Board and also the Energy Commission in the infrastructure necessary to support a growing fleet of battery, electric, and fuel cell vehicles. But we are going to need to continue to build on this progress. In the coming months, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency will be proposing a new standard to reduce greenhouse gas emissions from heavy-duty vehicles. Cleaning up this sector in California will be necessary to meet the federal air quality standards, and we're going to be working with the federal EPA to ensure that their standard captures all available cost-effective opportunities to reduce emissions. We would like, as much as possible, to rely on the federal government to do this work so that it's done at a national level. We also need to build on the success we've achieved in passenger vehicles by continuing to push for more efficient and more advanced technology, zero-emission cars. To this end, we are working to invest the incentive funds that are available through AB8 and through the cap-and-trade auction proceeds to help the private sector develop and bring innovative clean technologies to market and to encourage customers to use these technologies. I expect that you will be seeing legislation this year to expand the types of projects that are eligible for funding through the Carl Moyer program and better provide for projects that reduce both air pollutants and greenhouse gas emissions. This legislation is in response to an evaluation of the Moyer program that ARB conducted in partnership with local air districts pursuant to AB8 of 2013. Turning to fuels, cleaning up and diversifying the fuels we put in our cars and trucks is a critical part of the strategy for meeting air quality and climate goals in the state. California's low-carbon fuel standard requires a reduction in the carbon intensity of transportation fuels by 10% in the year 2020. There's a range of clean fuels which are already available today that will enable us to meet this goal and push even further beyond 2020. Fuels like hydrogen, electricity, renewable natural gas, renewable diesel, and clean biofuels are already supplying California's market in response to the board's low-carbon fuel standard, and more projects are poised to come online in the future. This year, the board will consider a rulemaking to readopt the low-carbon fuel standard regulation to address some procedural deficiencies in the original regulation, and we're using this as an opportunity to enhance the regulation, including a mechanism for cost containment. In addition to our efforts in California, British Columbia has a low-carbon fuel standard, and we're working with Washington and Oregon in their efforts to adopt similar programs so that we will have a West Coast-wide regional market for low-carbon fuels. These programs will further expand the market, obviously, and will make everybody's burden lighter because there will be the costs will be spread over a much larger area. In addition to fuels and vehicles, we also need to take a broad look at our transportation systems as a whole and to make them more efficient, provide more mobility options, and provide for greater growth and connectivity in the state. Under SB 375, progress is already being made to plan and implement sustainable communities. Under this law, the Air Resources Board has adopted regional greenhouse gas targets to be achieved through improved land use and transportation planning. We're coordinating with the Strategic Growth Council in allocating cap-and-trade auction proceeds to help local and regional governments implement these sustainable communities strategies. And the benefits of these programs and these investments will be seen for decades to come in the form of cleaner air, less greenhouse gases, and improved mobility. In addition to coordinating investments, this year we're undertaking a process to update the greenhouse gas targets for regions that are under SB 375. We also need to take steps in California to improve the way we move goods and freight within and through the state. As home to several major ports and hubs for international goods movement, we reap tremendous economic benefits from our goods movement system. Unfortunately, we also suffer from the significant air quality impacts that inefficient or dirty technologies create. We can't accommodate needed growth in our goods movement systems with the strategies and technologies of the past. To address this challenge, ARB is working with other state partners like the California Transportation Agency, as well as with local and regional partners, to develop and implement a sustainable freight strategy. This strategy is an integrated plan that's intended to identify ways that we can transform our goods movement system with zero emissions technologies. It's a major undertaking that will require a range of policy, regulatory, and incentive tools in order to accomplish the results. This spring, we'll publish a draft report that identifies opportunities to reduce emissions from goods movement in the near term. Before I wind this up, I want to briefly touch on a couple of key efforts that complement our work in the transportation sector. First of all, this year, in response to legislation SB 605 by Senator Lara, ARB will be developing a plan to cut back short-lived climate pollutants like methane, black carbon, and hydrofluorocarbons. In addition to providing immediate climate benefits, reducing short-lived climate pollutants can deliver significant air quality and public health benefits. Also, California's cap-and-trade program, which is now fully in place and functioning, has established a price for greenhouse gas emissions from the largest emitters in the state and creates an incentive to use the cleaner and more efficient technologies. Beginning this year, the program also covers fuels. We will see proceeds from the auction of allowances under this program invested across a range of important programs that will benefit California's communities, including advancing all of our goals for the transportation sector. We're investing in incentives to support the markets for clean vehicles, improving transit networks and enhanced mobility choices, and we're helping to bring the most advanced vehicles into market. In addition, we are also supporting, through these investments, the creation of California's landmark high-speed rail program, and this is also an important partnership between the Air Resources Board and the agencies that are building that system. In closing, the key to addressing our air quality, climate, energy, and economic priorities in the transportation sector is to address the major elements of the system. So that's why we're working at all fronts to deal with cleaning up our vehicles and fuels, improving planning, supporting new technologies that will improve system efficiency, as well as using pricing of carbon to send the signals throughout the whole economy, working to make our cities and towns more connected with more options for walking, biking, and taking transit. Throughout these initiatives, I think we can show that we can achieve the state's ambitious air quality and climate objectives while continuing to grow our economy. I look forward to working with the committee on all of these endeavors. Thank you.
Ms. Kim?
Thank you, Ms. Nichols, for being here. Last year, as you know, in anticipation of implementation of AB 32, there were a lot of buzz when public found out with the expansion of the cap-and-trade program, there will be a cost increase and pay more at the gas pump. This year, I know it went into effect, but we don't see the effect of it, and general public, especially when we put another full tank of gas, we don't see the effect as much because we just don't feel it, but it's there. Would you be able to make an educated guess on how much it's going to increase the gas, let's say full tank of gas, and when that might happen?
Well, I think estimates have been all over the map, but the advisors to the Air Resources Board, the expert committee that we appointed, came out with an estimate of about 10 cents a gallon. So obviously, depending on the size of the tank and the fill-up, that would vary. But that price increase, which indeed does get passed on to consumers at some point, is essentially hidden for two reasons. First of all, right now, the price of gasoline, of course, is it's at lowest point in a decade due to factors in the market. But that points to another fact about gasoline prices, which is that they're very complicated and they're also very volatile. So it is almost never possible for a consumer to know exactly which component of the gasoline is responsible for which piece of the price that they're seeing at the pump. This is not due to any intention on anyone's part to keep it from being known. It's just not knowable. It's a private market. It's not regulated in terms of price. Only if there's a mandated particular fee does that get noted. And so we are being as both as vigilant and as transparent as it's possible to be in terms of letting the public know exactly what we know when we know it. In addition, last year, there was a committee appointed, also pursuant to legislation, to specifically look at the factors that affect gasoline pricing in California. In fact, I believe they had their first meeting yesterday to gather information. This is an independent outside committee. They're staffed by the Energy Commission. We certainly will be following their work very closely, but they are an independent committee, and their job is to advise on whether they see any manipulations, any issues going on in the market, and to warn consumers and warn us if they see something happening that might lead to a price spike or some other perturbation in terms of fuel availability, so that everyone's prepared.
I mean, there was a reason why it was called a hidden tax. But would you agree, just quick question, many have also expected that the price will go up to like 75 cents per gallon. Is that high?
We never accepted that number, and to this day, we don't see any basis for that speculation.
You realize there was a bipartisan effort to ask you to delay the implementation because of those concerns, right?
We received a letter, which I responded to, and I'm happy to make that correspondence available to you.
I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Ms. Baker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've received some inquiries in my district. Well, first of all, thank you, Chairman Nichols, for joining us today. We've received some inquiries and concerns in my district, which is East Bay area, about the safety of filters that are required on certain diesel vehicles, their exhaust pipes, that are model year 2007 or earlier. And it's an area I'm still studying and not appropriate today to go into great detail on. But the concerns have been that they may contribute to causing fire or possibly even explosion in the vehicles. And so the particular concern in my district is that Interstate 580 is a major artery between Port of Oakland and Interstate 5, which then has commerce all throughout the state. Can you just tell me very briefly, and we can follow up more specifically with my office, what the Air Resources Board is doing to investigate those concerns? And maybe, again, we can go into much more detail offline and directly with my office.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you.
I'd be happy to follow up with any specific incidents that you may have heard of or any constituents that may be raising these issues. But yes, we track this very closely. This has been an issue that has been raised. There were concerns at the very beginning. Many truckers have been concerned about the impacts of retrofits in general. Owners of vehicles tend to not like to put equipment on their existing vehicles. They'd rather invest in a newer vehicle than use a retrofit. But the retrofits can be, in many instances, much more cost-effective as a way of meeting the requirements for reducing overall emissions. So the ARB has the responsibility for testing and certifying these devices. And if there are any incidents of malfunction or causing of problems such as the ones that you've mentioned, we do follow up and investigate them, and ultimately we have the power, and we have used it in the past, to withdraw the certification of a device if it doesn't meet our requirements, if it doesn't live up to the certification standards.
Have any of the inquiries that you've heard about or been looking into pertain to school buses or transport of passenger vehicles?
No. These were all commercial, non-school bus applications that we heard about.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, we'll be happy to follow up with you.
And Assemblymember Baker, I can attest to the willingness for the chairman and her legislative director. I've had numerous meetings with constituents, with their organization, and they've been spot on and dealing with it in a timely basis and in a one-size-doesn't-fit-all kind of perspective. So I really appreciate them being here today also. But I've had the opportunity over the last 2 years to understand that they are a willing participant in your constituents' concerns. So thank you with that. And Chairman, good to see you again. Thank you so much for coming. So we are going to move on to Comey Ajisi with Caltrans, along with Melanie Perrin, Caltrans Legislative Director. Thank you for joining us today, Comey. I was going to ask you if you brought a sleeping bag. Look forward to your comments. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Chair and members. My name is Comey Ajisi. I am the Chief Deputy Director for Caltrans. I am representing Malcolm Doherty today, our director, who unfortunately could not be here and sends his regrets having been called away to a meeting with Secretary Fox. With me is alleged director Melanie Perron, and I would like to acknowledge some members of our executive team that are also here. Steve Takigawa is here. He's our Deputy Director for Maintenance and Operations. And Bill Figge is also here. He's the acting director, deputy director for planning and modal programs. So let me start by first congratulating you, Chair, for your appointment to this committee, and also to recognize the new members on the committee, and also greet the returning members. This is an important committee to us, and we look forward to our partnership with you in ensuring that we provide a world-class transportation system that not only provides for safe mobility and access, but also one that offers sustainable choices and is efficiently integrated to serve Californians as they pursue all their various activities. So thank you for the opportunity to come before you and to provide an overview of the department. I want to start with discussing our core functions, some of our core functions, and also discuss the recent efforts that we're undertaking in the department to modernize Caltrans. Now, Caltrans has three primary programs, or what I call frontline programs. These are really where we mostly interact externally. These are project delivery, maintenance and operations, planning and modal programs. The remaining Caltrans programs support these core or frontline functions, and they also support the 12 districts that we have that carry out these duties in delivering projects and services, as well as maintaining and operating the system. Caltrans is, of course, responsible for the most complex transportation system in the nation, which include about 50,000 lane miles of roadway, over 12,000 state bridges, as well as 3 of the busiest intercity rail systems in the country. In addition, we also inspect about 24,000 local bridges, and we inspect and process permits for about 800 public use airports and local aviation facilities. Now, moving quickly to the 3 frontline or primary programs, starting with project delivery. Our project delivery program encompasses about 37% of our activities. It is responsible for constructing our investments in the system, from acquiring the land and analyzing the key environmental impacts of a project to incorporating the latest technology and standards in its design and engineering. Project delivery also sees a project definitely sees a project from concept to construction. This program meets the expanding and ever-changing needs of a growing population while working with communities to ensure that its important economic backbone, the state highway system and the transportation system, is strengthened and expanded in ways that best meet community and environmental needs. In project delivery, we oversee projects both large and small that save lives, reduce congestion, and these projects can ease commutes for drivers, such as the 4th bore of the Caldecott Tunnel that was completed last year. It can also expand opportunities for Californians to engage in alternative transportation like walking and biking. We currently have about 600 projects in construction with a budget of about $11 billion. These are projects that are actively in construction right now, and we are proud to be an essential element of the California economy. In project delivery, we seek to be a key player in making the vision of California mobility a reality. In the maintenance and operations program, this program accounts for about 34% of our activities. In this program, Caltrans is responsible to provide a safe system for all Californians and to sustainably and efficiently manage that system, as well as the transportation-related assets that we have. The program ensures the integrity of not just the pavement, but the bridges and other transportation and transportation-related assets. In the maintenance and operations program, we play a critical role in optimizing the performance of the system through the use of intelligent transportation systems to maintain reliability and to also provide accessibility. Through each of our 12 districts, these programs monitor the state system every day, managing and responding to incidents, partnering with our friends at the California Highway Patrol, as well as local agencies to ensure that the system operates in an integrated fashion to keep the system fully functional at all times. In our planning and modal program, which represents about 8% of our activities, Caltrans works in conjunction with other state agencies and local partners to help define the system, to help guide, to help participate in the regional planning process with the aim of improving linkages between the state and local land use decision-making as well as transportation decision-making processes. This requires a consideration of and a coordination with economic development and housing patterns and development, both urban and rural, and accommodation of geographical and related limitations on what our future needs might be in transportation. Recently, with the help of a very broad range of stakeholders, and pursuant to AB 14, we just completed and published the California Freight Mobility Plan, which identifies freight routes and transportation facilities that are critical to the state's economic growth and also allows us to meet both federal and state air quality goals. Now, the California freight system is one of the strongest in the nation. This plan will help us to maintain that status by providing a unified freight policy to improve freight corridors important to the state's economic future, and to also help further, and I think you heard with the chairman just spoke recently about, just ahead of me, about the transitioning of the freight system to cleaner energy solutions while we're advancing California's sustainability goals. This plan brings freight planning into the mainstream and aligns it with California's transportation planning process and state goals. So let me close my comments by focusing on efforts that we're undertaking at the department to become a more modern transportation organization. In June 2014, Caltrans took its first steps to modernizing the department in response to a 2014 report by the State Smart Transportation Initiative, and you heard from Undersecretary Annis about this. The report commissioned by the State Transportation Agency took Caltrans to task for not keeping pace with state policy goals and directions, and challenged the department to re-examine how it does its job, and also to align resources to match goals and objectives that are consistent with state policy goals. One of the report's first criticisms targeted Caltrans' mission statement, that it was too narrow, and it was outdated by exclusively addressing mobility, which mostly, when you hear mobility, most people associate that with the automobile, ignoring thus ignoring the changing needs and desires of Californians. Working with the Transportation Agency, Caltrans has updated its mission and vision. Mission statement clearly articulates, our new mission statement clearly articulates why Caltrans exists, which is to provide a safe and sustainable and integrated and efficient transportation system with the purpose of which is to enhance California's economy and livability. Caltrans also adopted new goals focusing on safety and health of Californians, sustainability and stewardship, system performance, and organizational excellence. Mission goals and visions could just be words if they're not followed by action. The department's the Caltrans Improvement Project is a roadmap for that action, and Undersecretary Annis talked a little bit about those 5 work groups that we have that we've been working under. The intent is that the outcomes and the strategies of these work groups will help shape Caltrans in delivering real progress and culture change in the department. That effort has been informing our current process in developing a 2015-2020 strategic plan with intent that all of our activities and our intent of moving the department in a different direction will actually be articulated in that strategic plan. So, Chairman, with that, I want to thank you for the opportunity to present about the department, and I'll be happy to take any questions.